There we go. Okay, so we are recording, and I want to call to order the April meeting of the Carmel Mountain Ranch Sabre Springs Community Council or Community Planning Group, and welcome everyone. Looks like we currently have 44 participants, so welcome to all of you. And I'm going to apologize in advance if any of this goes awry, but we're finding our way. And at this point, I'm driving everything. And as John pointed out a few minutes ago, I think going forward we'll have to have a co-host that can manage the participants. But right now we've got 45 people, which should be manageable. So we'll see how it goes. So I'm going to go over real quick here just the meeting etiquette. So I'm going to have everybody's muted until it's your turn to speak. Once we get through the first part of the agenda, the board introductions and that sort of thing, I'm going to ask if there are any non-agenda public comments, at which time you can either virtually raise your hand or type a message in the chat, which frankly I'm not sure if I can see right now. I'll work on that in a second. If all else fails, raise your hand and wave, and hopefully I'll see you. And if that fails, I'll just unmute everybody for a second, see if anybody's yelling at me. And then I'll create a list of people and get to you one at a time for your 3-minute non-agenda public comment. So continuing on with the etiquette, we're shooting for a meeting of 90 minutes or less. So I'll be muting people after 3 minutes. And if you're wrapping up your comment, then I'll have some flexibility there. If somebody's just going on and on, I will have to mute you after 3 minutes. And if we have a bunch of time left at the end, then we can always come back to you. But let's try this for now. And if there is any huge disruption, Zoom bombing, that kind of thing that occurs, because it has occurred at other planning group meetings throughout the city, we'll just have to cut it off. But at this point, we're good to go. Okay, this gets us into our agenda. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to look for a board member. And so I see some people's, first of all, can I have a board member raise your hand to make a motion to approve tonight's agenda? Okay, looking. Okay, Rich, I'm gonna unmute Rich. Go ahead, Rich.
I make that motion.
Okay, Rich Kreggy has made a motion to approve tonight's agenda. And then I'm going to go, oh boy, how am I going to do this? Let's see if the public could lower all your hands for a moment. I want to wait for a board member, and I have Robert, I see your hand up, and I'll come back to you. And Rick, I see your hand up, I'll come back to you. Robert, Mallory. Okay, so I need a second. John Chu, unmute. John, do you second that?
Second.
Okay, John seconds the motion. So all board members in favor of approving tonight's agenda, please just raise your hand in here and I'll see you. Michelle, Ryan, Rich, Mark, Clark. Okay, so I have John Chu, Michelle Mullen, Ryan Yamasaki, Rich Kreggy, Mark Clark, we're missing some board hands. We had a quorum a minute ago. I'm not sure what happened. Where did oh, there's Esther. Esther, are you there? Esther? You have your hand?
Yeah.
That's weird. Okay, I can't see that.
Physically.
Oh,
My hand
yeah.
is physically up because I don't have a emoji.
Okay, all right. So Esther's hand is physically up, although I can't see that because my screen is full of the presentation. Interesting. Okay, so that's.
Carlson's hand is up.
I'm sorry.
Hand is up.
Esther, you're breaking up a little
Kurt's
bit.
hand is also up. Did you see him?
I can't see him, but
Oh,
okay. So we have John.
Kurt.
Esther, can you maybe Esther, if you could call out real quick, just those of the board members that have their hands up to approve the agenda,
Okay, here we go.
please.
You know what? Let me print this out so I can put his name in front of me.
Bear with us, folks.
All right, can you unmute all for a minute? And as I call roll call, as I do roll call, can you please say yes? And that means you're here and you approve. Okay, so Eric Edelman, I know you're here.
Yes, I'm here,
Esther
and
is here.
I approve. And it's
Kurt is here and his hand was up.
Am I the only one? Read it there. I like
John, he approved. He said, Mark Clark, are you here? Is Mark Clark here?
yeah, his hand is up. He approves.
Okay, Mark Clark. Majid?
No. No, you have to stay in. You have to stay in.
Oh, for goodness sake.
Is here. Michelle, Michelle Mullen.
Yes, I approve.
Okay, thank
You want me to look there?
Troy.
Silva. Silva, you need to say approve the minutes. I'm taking attendance. Silva, is that you saying yes?
Silva.
Yes. Silva?
Yes, yeah, they're Silva and Majid say
Okay.
yes.
Okay, John Schroeder.
I'm currently not on the board, so I'm not participating in
Oh,
the.
right, yeah, he's abstaining from this vote.
John? Oh,
Yeah,
because
we'll-
he wasn't
Yeah,
here.
we'll circle back to him later.
Okay. Dan Thompson. Dan Thompson.
Dan, are you here? I don't think Dan's here.
And then Ryan.
Ryan's here, and he raised his
Okay.
hand.
Ryan.
Okay, I'm gonna go back to.
Okay,
I'm going back to.
Yeah, so the only one is Dan.
Okay, I'm gonna go back to. I'm going back to mute all.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh boy. Yeah, that was something. Okay, now I need to. All right. Okay, so we have Esther has taken roll, and Esther has gotten approval for tonight's agenda all at the same time. And now what we need to do is grab a motion to approve the minutes from our March meeting. Ryan, I see your hand up, so I'm going to unmute you. I'm going to try and unmute you. It's not working. Oh, there you go. Ryan?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve. John Chu, do you have a second? John?
Second.
Second, good, thank you. Okay, so Esther's audio was pretty badly garbled on my side. John and Ryan, were you experiencing the same thing?
Yes.
Okay. Ryan, can you do me a favor then? And well, no, now how are we going to do this? We'll try and we'll try the thing where that's well, it's not.
We could just type in the chat window if we approve.
Yeah, why don't you do that? Let's do that. Show. Okay, now, okay, I'm going to look at the chat window. Oh, good. Okay. Okay, so we've got Approval, approve. Esther, approve. Okay, I'll tell you what, okay, Rich approves. Kurt approves. Approve motion, okay. All right, so what we're gonna do then is, Esther, if you could go ahead and record that we have approval on minutes from March, we'll go ahead and move forward. We'll go ahead and move forward from this exercise. Okay, so where does that leave me? I gotta close the chat window. I have too many things on my screen. Okay, next slide. All right, so now we're gonna come to public comment. And the way I thought I was gonna do this is probably not gonna work very well. So what I am going to do here is I'm gonna unmute everybody. And if you wish to make a public comment, just say your name, and let's see how that works, because I'm having a lot of trouble seeing whose hands are up visually, and then the little icons in the participant window, there's just too many people to scroll through. We have 56 participants. So I'm gonna unmute everybody. Okay, everybody is unmuted. I have Cindy Tour for non-agenda public comment. Robert Mallory had his hand up. Robert, did you have a non-agenda public comment?
Say. All right, Trent.
All right. Who else wishes a non-agenda public comment besides Cindy?
I do, Rick Ludwig.
Rick Ludwig, gotcha. Anybody else?
Want to put us on?
Non-agenda public comment. Okay, we're gonna mute. I'm gonna mute everybody, and I'm gonna go to Cindy. I'm gonna go to Cindy Tour first. Cindy, can you hear us? Hi, Cindy.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay. I got the world's noisiest chair. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Hi, I'm Cindy Tour for those that don't know me, and I just wanted to do some updates on Carmel Mountain Ranch CMR Outreach. CMR Outreach is a group we started with fellow neighbors, and we put it together to help our high-risk neighbors so they could stay at home during the pandemic, along with picking up and delivering grocery items. We've also gotten into making masks. Some of the things we're doing is collecting material and elastic. So we are always open for donations of those items. Where we would like to go now is helping food banks or delivering food. So again, we're open for any kind of suggestions or ideas how we might go about that in our community. I definitely want to thank all my dedicated and hardworking volunteers. If you would like to volunteer, you can contact us by email, cmroutreach@gmail.com. Again, it's cmroutreach@gmail.com. And of course, if you need assistance, contact us. We have a designated number, 585-521-8872. Let me just say that again, 585-521-8872. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cindy. This is being recorded and it will be rebroadcast, and we will record that information in the minutes. So we appreciate that. And then let's see, Rick Ludwig had his hand up, so I'm muting Cindy and I am unmuting Rick. Rick,
Yeah, hi, Rick Ludwig here. It's more of a question.
Sure.
I was just coming back into the area while I was out on some business, and they're talking about the corner of Ted Williams Parkway and Highland Ranch Road. And on the southeast corner, I just noticed some large, heavy equipment. Is there something going on with New Urban West that we don't know about?
The answer to that is no. The heavy equipment that you're seeing in that location is likely due to some tree removal that's
Okay.
going on with PACS Enterprises, the current owner of the property. And I know for a fact that there was a code enforcement investigator walking the property with the owner today. So there were a number of things being addressed. I asked to be allowed to be present at that walkthrough, and the request was denied. I'm not sure whether it was COVID related or just that they didn't want me there, but the code enforcement officer promised that he would follow up with me and let me know what, if any, code enforcement issues were discovered today, but that did occur today. And so the city is aware, but it is not a New Urban West, any sort of construction or anything like that.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay. So I had Cindy and I had Rick Ludwig. I'm watching the chat window right now. If there is anyone else, I'm going to mute you again, Rick. Well, if I can find you again. I'm just going to mute all. That'll be easy. Okay. I'm watching the chat window. Is there anyone else with a non-agenda public comment? If you could just type that in the chat, I will see it and I will get to you. I am seeing none, so I assume that folks are reserving their comment for a later time. Okay. Just 1 second here. All right. Trees being removed of the golf course beyond 50. Who's paying for this and what? Trees being, I'm reading a comment from Dawn. She says the trees being removed all over the golf course are beyond the 50-foot zone. Who's paying for this? Why would the golf course owner pay for this? Frankly, Dawn, I believe it's because he's selling the trees. That's the answer to why. And Jonathan Frankel with New Urban West is here, and we'll ask him the question when it's his turn. So that's the answer to that. And so, are there any other public non-agenda comments? All right, we're gonna move on. We're gonna move on. I can't even see my own screen now. It's buried with so much stuff. No, I'm way too far ahead on the agenda here. Sorry, guys. I'm scrolling backwards. We did that. Introduction of board members. So we have to go through introduction of board members because we have several new board members, and in order for them to be officially seated, they have to introduce themselves at a meeting. And so I'm going to do this quick and dirty. I'm just going to unmute all, and if everybody could just please try and be quiet while we introduce the board members. I know Esther already did a roll call, but I just want to get this on the record. So John Chu, I'm going to start with you, John Chu. If you could just introduce yourself.
A resident, Walden.
Okay, thank you, John. Silva and Majid, can you introduce yourselves? They're muted. Unmute. I thought I said, okay.
Yeah, I did.
Hi.
I'm Majid Mushirian. I'm in Sigo Salahi. You are the resident of Carmel Ranch.
Okay. Is Silva there with you, Majid?
She's on the phone right now. She'll be here any morning.
Okay. Well, we'll come back. I'm Eric Edelman. I'm occupying a business seat on the board. Other board members, please speak up.
Hey, Eric, this is Mark Clark. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Mark. Okay, Mark Clark.
This is Mark Clark, resident Walden.
Thank you. Rich.
Rich Krejci, owner, Carmel Mountain Ranch.
Ryan.
Ryan Yamasaki, homeowner, Carmel Mountain Ranch.
Michelle.
Michelle Mullen, homeowner.
Esther.
Esther Berry, homeowner.
Cool. Okay, who have I missed, Esther?
Oh, come on, guys. We haven't done anything.
All right, I'm muting all again, and I'm gonna go back to, it's just too crazy. Esther, where'd you go? Jeez. Esther, can you raise your hand so I can get to you quickly? All right, well, we're gonna have to move on. We're basically, what we're trying to do here is introduce all the board members, and in particular the new board members. And I can't pull up the roster without exposing everybody's personal information, so I'm not going to do that. We have 13 currently seated, actually 12 currently seated board members. John Schroeder is going to be appointed later in the meeting to a vacant seat, and then we will have 13. And the minutes will report exactly who was here and what position on the board they're holding. We're trying to get it on the recorded record, but that is challenging. Esther is on here. Okay, Ryan, so I don't have, okay, there's a lot of chat now. Hang on, folks. I'm trying to read what's being removed. I don't have emojis on the Chromebook, so okay. Esther is on the participants button. Okay, yeah. Sorry. Okay, Silva's here. Silva Salehi, she's a new board member. Use chat for procedural roll calls. That's probably a good idea. Yes, you're right. You guys are right. Thank you. Okay, so we'll use chat for that going forward. That was a failed attempt at doing something there. Okay, so at this point, the 2020-2021 board is officially seated. I'm going to declare that to be the case. So we're moving on then to, we already did, how did we get to public comment? Well, I'm sorry, folks. I went out of order. We did public comment first. That's all right. So basically, items B through J are presentations from elected officials. So I am going to look and see here. Do we have, I know that Julie Dratt is not here. Should the board members introduce themselves via chat? Yes, that's how we're going to do it in the future. This was a failed attempt at that. So Officer Julie is not with us tonight. Do we have anyone from the CMR fire station? CMR fire station. Anybody? No. I'm just gonna, I'm unmuting everybody. I'm going through this roll call real quick because it's just gonna be easier that way. Senator Brian Jones, representative. Assemblyman Mainshine, representative. Everybody's unmuted, so speak up if I call your name. Anthony George with Kristen Gaspar's office. Mark Schaefer from Councilman Kersey's office.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, good. Okay, Mark, I'm going to mute everybody and I'm going to unmute you.
Sounds good. Glad that we, Eric, you were able to get this meeting set up. You know, it's been a little bit tough the last month or so trying to get the planning department to try to help. So first update is the parks are beginning to open for passive use only, no active use. That does not include the reservoir. So down in Miramar Lake is still closed. It's a PUD property. There's looking to open up more of those as things go on. Penasquitos Canyon near us, and then down south, Coles Mountain are continuing to be closed even for passive use because of their popularity. Also, just on the other side, SR 56 has a bike path. There's been some confusion at the beginning, but that bike path is open. It's a managed by Transportation and Stormwater, so it's a transportation corridor, not a park bike path. The budget was proposed recently by the mayor. Councilmember Kersey is a little concerned with the lack of details. We're looking at some cuts significant to the libraries and recreation in that budget, but more will come in next month, more details. And then reference the code enforcement issue with the golf course property. And we have Joseph Zumello is monitoring, or he's the investigator on that, and it's for the entire property. Our office and I've received a number of different complaints about different issues, and it's all being under one code enforcement investigation. And I will leave it up to any other questions, concerns. We did receive a lot of comments from the community regarding the development process, and we are tallying those on the opposition. But other than that, open up to any questions.
Okay, if somebody has a question for Mark, if you're able to type it in, just say in the chat, if you could say, I have a question, I'll see your name and I'll unmute you. Or if you virtually raise your hand, I should see it, but the participant list is rather long. So I am monitoring the chat window and I don't see anybody raising hands or putting in the chat that they have a question for Mark Schaefer. I'm going to unmute all. Wait, what is the time? Okay, Troy Dom to everyone. Mark, Troy is asking, what is the timeline on the EIR process?
I don't have that off the top of my head, but that is something I will get back to you. I'll email to you, Eric, and then I have your email also, Troy, so I will email you also.
Okay, good. I'm just going to do this real quick. I'm going to do it. I'm paranoid that I'm missing somebody, so I'm going to unmute all briefly and just ask. Yes. Troy's asking how many letters were sent to the community on the EIR process, and I can answer that. I asked Elizabeth Shearer, when she's running that EIR scoping process, and I asked her how many letters had been received, and she said earlier this week it was 120 letters received on that EIR process.
Right.
So thank you.
One of the things I wanted to add, I apologize. One of the nice things is since the last meeting, the last submission by New Urban West has been digitally submitted and is available on their CMR Vision website also. So and with the planning department. So we won't run into the problem of not having it public, the paper copy, and no access to it going forward, it looks like.
Correct. Yes, I shared those links with CMR United, and I shared those links on Nextdoor, I believe, and if I didn't, I'll go back and do it. And on the library's Facebook page, I believe they have all these documents linked as well. So if anybody wants to look at the documents, they can, and they don't have the links any other way, they can ask me and I'll provide them. And then also Harold Klotz was nice enough to actually go through the cycle review submission and all the other documents and created a very nice table of contents, which will make it easier for everyone to view those. And I'll share that table of contents. I believe he also copied Alan Hahn and Troy Dom on that. And so that table of contents is available along with the electronic submission. So that should make it easier to go through all that. So let's see. Rick, okay. Rick Ludwig has a, okay. Provide email. I've got a couple of comments here I'm just reading. Provide email contact list of city council members to voice concern on project. Yes, Kurt, if you can provide me with that list, I'll send it out to everybody, and I'll send it to Troy and he can send it to his list. Rick Ludwig says he has a question, so I'm going to find him and unmute him. Boy, why in the world is it so hard? Oh, here you are.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
During this lockdown or quarantine we're in, are we comfortable that there are processes we have visibility to all the processes that are taking place and that we're not getting taken advantage of because we are enclosed.
Mark, are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Do you have an
No,
answer for that?
Well, it's still an open process. Part of having that digitally available and pushing it forward is having it so it is transparent for everyone to see readily. And the planning, the contacts for the project, all of that is still there. Everyone is working either remotely, or I think a couple people might still be in the office at DSD, but everyone is still working and still accessible during this whole entire process, and nothing's being approved behind anyone's back. There's notices being sent out regularly on this and other projects also.
One, as a addendum to that,
Yeah.
this report was paid for by New Urban Rest?
What, the one that was submitted?
Yes.
Yeah, that's their report. They submit, and instead of submitting it paper form, it's the Argus, I think is the name of the program.
Do we feel there's a bias in the report? I haven't seen it, so I don't know, but two things. I'd love to know if you feel there's bias. And the other thing was, I would love a link so we could look at it.
Okay, I can't really answer to the bias. I presume no, but it's up to your interpretation of seeing what they have presented. I mean, they have certain requirements that are reviewed by the department. So,
Rick, are you on my email list, Rick?
I am not. I'm not sure. I'll pop my email down here and make sure.
Yeah, I'll make sure you get the links to that. And
that's all I have.
Thank you. As far as this goes, there were definitely some folks that were concerned about the process moving forward during all of this. And I did send an email to the city asking for an explanation of why is the process moving forward, and basically, and this all went on next door, but the answer I got was that basically nothing in the governor's orders to shut things down included the EIR scoping process or the development process in the city of San Diego. John says the link to the plans were provided, but the formal, the formal EIR has not been posted. It's not, and he's giving a link in the chat. Robert Ludwig, I'm going to make a note of your email here.
Rick.
Yeah, sorry. It's 57@aol.com. I'll put you on the list and make sure you get those links.
Thank you.
Okay, so no other questions for the link to the plans. Okay, John Chu's giving some links in the chat that you guys can check out. I'm going to go ahead and mute everyone again and then come back around and see. I keep clicking and okay. Sorry guys. Public comment. Okay, items. Okay, I got to get back to this list and make sure I haven't missed any of the public officials that we need to recognize. Okay. Everyone is unmuted temporarily. Tony Kempton with San Diego Planning. Are you here? Anybody from San Diego Planning Department? No. Okay.
Excellent.
Yeah, right. Scott Peters representative. Anybody? No. Okay, I'm going back to mute.
Put a towel or something down on the.
Going back to mute all. Okay, so at this point in the agenda, we are, let's see, I got to get my chat. Well, hang on, folks. Where'd my screen share go? Okay, present. Okay, so now we are at the point in the meeting where Jonathan Frankel from New Urban West will address us, and I am going to scroll through here and find him and unmute him because I saw him in here. New Urban West, unmute. Is that you, Jonathan?
I'm here, Eric. Good evening. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you, yes.
Great. Well, thank you to Eric and members of the board. Good evening to everyone. Again, I'm Jonathan Frankel with New Urban West. Appreciate this opportunity to give you a quick update on the project. Firstly, of course, we hope that everybody is staying healthy and safe during this time. Very interesting, unprecedented situation we all find ourselves in. And certainly, the global health crisis has impacted the city and has impacted the processing of the development plans, and I'll talk about that very briefly. But the update at this time is that we continue to receive comments from the city of San Diego. There's about a dozen departments that are reviewing the plans for compliance with all city standards. These include things like traffic, biology, schools, other important environmental issues in support of the city's drafting of the environmental impact report. One of the board members mentioned earlier that that report is not yet available. That is correct. They are still drafting it, and we are providing information in support of the city's analysis of our proposal and any associated environmental impacts of the plan. At a high level, there have been no material changes to the plan in terms of the overall program. The plan still includes 1,200 housing units. It includes about 6.5 miles of publicly accessible trail system. We have made some progress on identifying potential park spaces and park areas, and we have just under 10 acres of proposed new public park. And we're still working with the City Parks Department to determine exactly what that looks like. But that is an improvement and an update on that specific parks planning process. So we will be continue to submitting. We will continue to submit information and get feedback, address comments, and as I mentioned, due to the health crisis that we find ourselves in, the city is a bit slower in returning these comments, and things are proceeding a little bit differently than they typically would. So I don't know that I'll have an update every month for this group, and certainly to the extent that there are material changes to the plans, I will make sure to get in touch with Eric and make him aware and the community aware if and when those changes occur. Finally, I just wanted to mention that we have worked with the planning department, as the council member's representative suggested, to facilitate digital access to the plans. So we posted them on our website, and we've updated our website with more information. And that URL is the trails at atcmr.com. And right at the top there is a banner with a get latest updates. And right there is a link to the plan. So if anybody doesn't have the plans, they are posted online. We will continue to do that. We understand, and many neighbors asked us as well to provide digital access to facilitate an easier review during this time when everyone is quarantining at home. So that's all I have tonight. Of course, we'd be happy to answer any specific questions that you may have, and look forward to updating you in the future.
Thank you, Jonathan. Would you mind typing? Somebody's asking if you could please type the web address in the chat. Can you do that for us?
Sure. Awesome. So Troy Dahm asked, can you explain how you arrive at the 70% open space? So Troy correctly notes that approximately 70% of the property is preserved as open space. We're developing approximately 30%, and we are preserving approximately 70%. So the open space areas include, of course, those totally undeveloped areas. That would be everything south of Ted Williams in the Walden community. There is no development at all proposed. And as you kind of work your way around the community, units 15, a portion of 16, the area around Chikorita Creek, hole number 7, which is off of Shoal Creek. None of those areas are slated to have any residential structures. Those are either park areas or true open space areas permanently maintained as open space. The open space calculation also includes the 50-foot buffer area. Many of you will recall, of course, privacy being a principal concern in the community. there is a buffer around each one of the proposed development areas that will be landscaped, and that is also included as open space, as it will be building restricted. There will actually be building restricted easements recorded on those areas, which will legally prevent any structures from being built there. So per city code, that is also included in the open space areas. So those are the three categories: parks, natural open space, and buffers that are included in the open space calculation. Alan Hahn, oh, sorry, Eric.
No, go ahead. You got it. You see it.
Alan Hahn, hi Alan, good evening. Asks, did you submit any other documents to the city last week along with the plans? Yes, we did. We did submit other supporting information. There are preliminary draft documents of a number of technical studies that will be included in the city's EIR.
And when do we expect that? I'm unclear on that. The EIR.
So as it's a city-led process, it is difficult for me to say precisely, but I would anticipate at this current moment, I think towards the end of the year, perhaps early next year is when we would expect to see the EIR, but that's subject to change depending on the city's priorities, their staffing levels, and their internal managerial decisions.
Okay. Looks like we've got some couple of other questions here. John Giltner is asking who will pay for parks and open areas.
So John, there will be a combination of entities. Right now we're talking with the city about how many of those park areas, if any, they wish to assume. So typically in a planned community, the city will ultimately be responsible for the maintenance of the parks. Obviously the city may not want that, and we may have to find another alternative maintenance plan. And that could include a new master HOA formed, of which all the new development would be a part of that master HOA. No existing residents would be part of a new HOA that would support that maintenance. And or there is an existing maintenance district. And so that's a city district, and that would be maintained effectively by the city. And so there are a couple of different ways to do it. It'll either be city or it'll either be master HOA is the likely to.
Okay, and then board member Silva Salehi asks, are you keeping open spaces as agricultural zoning?
Yes, we are, Silva. That is correct. And we did that intentionally. We're not changing the zoning on the buffer areas, and we're not changing the zoning on those parcels that we did not develop, provided that a park is an allowable use in that area. So the agricultural zoning will remain on those parcels that are undeveloped.
Okay, and do you see Troy's question right below that? Why are all the parcels on the golf course not included in your purchase agreement?
Sure. So I believe there's actually only one parcel that the owner wished to retain, and that was the former maintenance area. And I can't really speak to, I wasn't privy to that conversation, so I can't speak to exactly why, but we are purchasing the remainder of the golf course with the exception of that maintenance area that he wished to retain.
Okay. And Michelle Mullen, board member, asks, will there be parking allowed within the buffer?
Yes, there will be parking allowed in the buffer. However, parking is limited in the buffer. In buffer areas, a minimum of the first 15 feet are required to be landscaped. So there'll be no parking immediately adjacent to anybody's back fence. And then the total number, aggregate amount of allowable parking is capped. And we're still working at exactly what that cap will be with the city. So it will not be the case that the buffer, that parking areas will be immediately along someone's back fence, nor will it be the case that the entirety of the buffer area is limited. We think that we will have a very robust screening and planted area within the buffer, and the buffer is primarily and will function primarily to support the 6+ miles of trails that are proposed in the project.
Okay. Lots of questions popping up. Alan Hahn asks, which technical studies were submitted?
Yeah, well, I can get you a list of what we had submitted. I believe that you went down to the city and looked at some of the other interim preliminary drafts of those studies. There were no new reports. It was just revisions to what was existing there. But Alan, I'd be happy to email you the list of the studies.
Okay, so more questions. Okay, so hang on, Jonathan. Okay, so Kurt, I'm gonna well, geez, okay. Kurt's asking a longer question here. Do you see it, Jonathan? Or should I? I'll read it. Kurt Carlson, board member, asks, he says, the community has always been concerned about the easements adjacent to existing homes. We have asked for 75 to 100 feet in all our meetings and workshops, but you have proposed 50. Now your guidelines are putting roadways and parking in with this easement, which doesn't leave any room for a decent LS buffer. I assume he means landscape.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I understand the concern that the buffer should focus, be primarily focused on providing privacy and providing recreational uses in there, and we think that the current proposal will do that. So we within that 50-foot area, again, parking will be limited, landscaping will be required, and on the vast majority of the areas, the primary access will not be in the buffer. So we do understand and appreciate that screening is necessary and is a key component of the buffer, and we intend on making sure that occurs.
Okay. All right. So I see we got 13. If people hang on, 14 new questions, comments. Hang on, folks. Let's get through these before anybody else adds any more to the list here. Okay, Michael's iPhone. Okay, so Michael is asking, is the 50-foot from a road or 50 feet from the building on hole 10? So the road is within the 50 feet. I'm not quite sure I understand the question.
So I think the commenter refers to the how the buffer is measured. So the 50 feet is from an existing neighbor's property line, your back fence, assuming that's the property line, to any new residential structure. So your fence, then we have 50 feet between your back fence and any proposed new structure. That's how it's measured. Again, the limited parking is allowed in the buffer. However, they primarily function as landscaped areas and to support the recreational uses.
Okay, Jim Peters asks, does the new Urban West plan grant any access to new homeowners on the other side of the 50-foot buffer?
So good evening, Jim. Thanks for the question. If you're referring, Jim, to the idea that an existing owner on the course could kind of walk out of their backyard onto the trail system, perhaps, or into the buffer, that's not something that we've currently contemplated. If individuals are interested in having that type of access, I think it would be a little bit on a unit by unit basis as to whether that's feasible, but we would be happy to look into that.
Okay, Harold Klotz says, Jonathan, can you provide any update on your plans to put parking and roads, drive aisles in the 50-foot buffers and how that would affect counting them as open space?
Thanks for the question, Harold. Yeah, as I mentioned before, parking will be allowed, but it will be limited. And so that's something that we're still working on with the city. So when we have a percentage, we'll certainly be back, Harold, to update you in the community about what ultimately the proposal will include. So right now, the city allows open space to be calculated where there are no structures. So that will certainly, as I mentioned, be the case for the buffers. There will be a building restricted easement recorded on those areas, so no buildings or structures of any type can be placed within the 50-foot buffer.
Okay. Joe Powell would like to know, for the development on Carmel Ridge Road at the clubhouse, 400 apartments, ? I only see one entrance via Carmel Ridge Road. Is that correct?
So firstly, there are not 400 apartments planned for that area. So it will be substantially less than that. And there will be 2 points of access, both along Carmel Ridge. So there will be 2 points of access that will generally be a looped road system that will include 2 points of access.
Okay. And there's just more questions keep popping in here. Okay, so Julianne Howes would like to know if there is a separate HOA, would non-trails residents be able to use any park or rec areas?
Yes, Julianne, the answer is absolutely yes. We know that trails, when we did our survey and when we held our workshops, I think there was nearly universal agreement that trails were the #1 requested amenity and desired amenity in the community. So all of the trails will be fully publicly accessible. And the way we do that, similar to the building restriction in those areas, we record an easement that facilitates public access. So there is a legally binding agreement between us and the city that requires us to have those trails open. They will not be paid for by existing residents. They will only be accessible to existing residents, but absolutely you will be able to use them.
Thank you. Kurt Carlson again. It's looking like the underdeveloped or native areas are being left out of your project. What will happen to these areas if you do this?
So Kurt is correct that there's no development planned in those areas. However, that they are part of the project in that we're doing some native plant restoration in those areas. So there's a lot of invasive non-native grasses that the city would like to see removed. And we're going to reestablish those areas with some new landscape. One of the other things that we're doing in those areas that I think will be really important for the community is brush management, which is really a health and safety issue with respect to fire. We know wildfire is a huge concern for everybody in San Diego, certainly in this community, given your interface with all the hillsides and adjacent wildlands. It's a comment, a very valid and good one brought up by Troy and many others at these meetings. So we've implemented a formal brush management plan, which will actually result in formal fire modeling here in this area. And for the very first time, we're really going to try and understand how a fire would behave and how do we work to minimize any impacts of a potential fire in the community in those undeveloped areas. So we think that's going to be a substantial improvement on the existing condition. And so to answer Kurt's question directly, we will be doing landscaping in those areas. We will be doing trail construction in those areas, but of course there will be no building in those areas and no structures.
Thank you. Okay, so from Cindy Tour, the number of 1,200 dwellings is subject for approval. Could this number go up?
The answer, Cindy, is no. The proposal is 1,200 units. We do not plan on increasing the number of units in the project.
Thank you. Okay, John Neighbors, who pays for undeveloped open space not allocated to the development, the current CMR HOA? I believe you addressed that, or maybe you didn't.
Correct. Yeah. So the John, the undeveloped open space will either be maintained by a new master HOA or the city.
Okay, so that's not been, it's not fleshed out yet, or it's one or the other. Okay, so Kurt Carlson says, is the 8-foot trail part of the 15-foot landscape or the 50-foot buffer?
So the condition varies, Kurt. Typically, it's within the buffer. It's not true in all instances. So it is generally within the 50-foot buffer, but not in all cases.
Okay, so this is a comment. I don't believe it. Okay, so Julianne House says, so a buffer is parking and a trail that anyone can use. This is not privacy. So I'm reading that, so it's in the record, and I guess that the chat is probably part of the record too, but I'm just getting that in the record for the minutes. Troy Dom, there appears to be a massive amount of grading in the project. Is it your plan to flatten the hills to create level pads for apartments? For example, I live on the bottom of a hill. Do you plan to fill that area so these apartments are now above my house level?
So the grading plan varies across the site. Some of the ultimate condition, the development pads will be approximately at existing grade. Some of them will be slightly above, some of them will be below. So it really depends. And Troy, I'd be happy to get you information about what's going on immediately adjacent to your house, and any community member or neighbor for that matter, if you're interested in what's going on. For example, in and around the current clubhouse area, that ends up being 2 to 3 feet above where it is now. Generally speaking, it's the case that we try and be sensitive to existing grade. But it varies throughout the site, and I'd be happy to talk to you on a unit by unit basis.
Okay, Brian Hollinsworth says, okay, I'm going to read this. The Planning Commission recommended you not try to cram as many housing units as possible on the course, yet that's exactly what you're proposing. How do you reconcile your original proposal to the Housing Commission to what you are submitting?
Yeah, thanks for your question, Brian. So obviously we would disagree with the characterization that preserving 70% of the open property as open space is cramming housing units onto the site. We feel that preserving that much of the property, 111 acres as open space, is a balanced approach. So in addition to telling us that the city and the Planning Commission are looking to provide housing opportunities for future San Diegans, and those that tend to be a little bit more affordable, smaller homes and units for younger families, they asked us to be innovative in the approach to connectivity, to recreational amenities, and we certainly feel that the 6+ miles of trails, having a direct connection east-west from Highland Ranch Park, basically all the way down to the transit center, having a robust system that allows people to leave the car at home and to walk to Trader Joe's and the library and other amenities. All of those are important, and we think meet the criteria that the Planning Commission established.
Okay, there are a few more, and I'm going to say that we need to cut this off right around 6:30 so that we can get to Troy and to the rest of our business tonight. But I do want to get to everybody's comments, and as always, Jonathan, I assume you are accessible for questions outside of the meeting or comments, correct?
Of course, yeah, you can always contact us through our website, and most of you have my contact information and correspond with you, so please, of course, feel free to call me or email me with any questions. And
then the new site that you created does have a place for community feedback, is that right? Or am I wrong?
Yes, you can submit your comments there on the website, the trails at atcmr.com, the trails at cmr.com. You can go there and leave your feedback on the proposal. Some comments, of course, provided here tonight. You can do that on the website anytime.
Okay, and then I will also, well, I forgot what I was going to say. I'm sorry. Okay, so Rick Ludwig, I'm going to read this comment so it's in the record. None of these guys live here. Now on hole 17, I understand the access will be into our cul-de-sac. That is the end of Eastbourne. Why not out to Carmel Ridge? This is a safety and traffic concern. Do you have a...
So, yeah, thanks for the question, Rick. With respect to Unit 17, the reason that there's not a long road out from Carmel Ridge is because there's some habitat in a city wetland, a drainage area that runs in between 17 and the clubhouse. So because of that, the city asked us to avoid that area, as they did a few others, and that's why the road was placed where it was.
Okay. And, you know, folks, as Jonathan's talking, there's just more and more and more comments and questions, and we really do have to cut it off at a certain point. So we're gonna, and I unfortunately have allowed this to get a little out of hand due to not being able to, well, I'm not effectively managing the meeting here, because normally we would have, you'd sign up, you'd say your piece, Jonathan would answer, and then, you know, that would be that. I've got repeat commenters and questions, and I understand there's a lot of questions and we want to get them all answered. However, we also we don't physically have a time limit. We're not getting kicked out of a room, but people do need to get back to their lives, and I do plan to end this at 7. So carrying on from that, Michelle Mullen, board member, says having parking 15 feet from your fence is unacceptable. Air quality at homes is the air quality at homes impacted is detrimental. And Jonathan, I don't think I expect you to answer that other than just to say that it's in the record and noted, unless you had a comment about it. Jonathan?
No, I do not, Eric. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So Brian says, does a roadway and parking count as open space? I believe you already acknowledged that it might or does. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Julianne Howes, what is the actual percentage of true open space not including roads and parking? I would expect you don't have that figure right now, but perhaps you could think about that one for next time.
Yeah, absolutely, Julian. I can get you the precise number. I don't want to quote something off the top of my head that's inaccurate, but please feel free to reach out to us after the meeting.
Jim Peters says, what happened to the discussion about a central gathering point restaurant community center, maybe near the clubhouse, to help bring community members together? Is that being evaluated and or considered, or just all condos and apartments?
No, it's absolutely being considered, Jim. We did hear from many folks that having not only one gathering point, but a series of gathering points along the trail system is something that was desired. Shade structures, benches, other places to meet up with friends and family. So that we are evaluating that for that central area. If we could have some sort of public plaza there whereby people could gather, and there may be food trucks that could come there, or they could host special events for the community. So that absolutely is still being evaluated and discussed with the city.
Thank you. Kurt Carlson's statement regarding parking in the 50-foot buffer. The city comments are already saying this seems very inconsistent with the intent of the buffer. So that's just a statement from Kurt, and I'll move on unless you have something to say about that. Okay.
No, nothing further.
Brian Hollinsworth, 70% of open space counts roads and paths. This is not balanced. It's misleading use of terminology. So that's in the record. Kurt, we continue to disagree and very concerned that this cluster technique of housing, which we asked not to do, will create a wall of housing. How do you justify preserving those home views?
So Kurt, good question. If you haven't had an opportunity to take a look at the design guidelines, there's a couple of sections on scale of the buildings, how they're going to be positioned relative to grading, and all the things that Kurt is an expert more so than I am on this stuff. So we're trying to implement best practices with respect to that. And on an area by area basis, it will vary slightly. So if anybody has particular questions, happy to talk about what's going on right in front of your individual property offline.
Thank you. Jonathan, you noted there, John Neighbors, Jonathan, you noted there will be a new master HOA to pay for open space or undeveloped regions of the plan. Is this new HOA superseding the current HOA? I assume the answer to that is no.
Yeah, the answer to that is no, John. A new master HOA will have no impact on the existing HOA. It will not increase the assessments. It will not increase the duties or obligations of the existing HOA. It is completely independent from the existing master HOA.
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna. I'm gonna get to. We have a couple of other board comments, and then we are going to cut this conversation off. There is a space on Jonathan's website for comments. And this is not the last time that we're going to meet and discuss this, so we can't have an open-ended thread on this tonight. Silva, who's a board member, says there are 2 communities that have one entrance only to Shoal Creek. How are you managing the traffic congestion on Shoal Creek?
So traffic is going to be studied comprehensively by the city, and I've described a little bit about their method before. Which is that they count every car on the road in the morning and the evening, the AM and PM commute hours. Then they're going to work to understand how many cars can the road accommodate. And they assign a letter grade to every road, so we understand what's existing, how are they performing, and what's going to happen when you add our traffic, and not only our traffic, but what happens when you add all of the other traffic associated with any other development project that's proposed in the area. So that could be anything going on here, anything going on across the freeway. So the city ultimately will do that work, and they will then come back to us with a set of requirements as to what we need to do to effectively manage the traffic, and we will be complying accordingly.
John Chu, board member, will you provide a more detailed plan with buildings and roads and parking identified?
John, the plans will get more detailed over time, and I'd be happy to, walk through any particular area of concern for you.
Okay, and then regarding the traffic study, Julianne House is asking, and I think is the traffic study, is that being, if it is it being done while people are at home, or when are they doing this traffic study? Because obviously that would severely skew things if they're doing it during this quarantine period.
Yeah, absolutely, Juliana. It's a great point. No, the answer is no. The traffic study is not conducted during this period of quarantine, when obviously there is far, far less traffic. Anybody that's been driving recently knows. So the traffic counts are taken during normal business hours and a normal work week, non-holiday. They're also taken when school is in session. So the city has standards about when and how you actually take those counts, and it's actually an individual that stands out on the street with a clicker and actually counts every single car that comes. So it's during normal business hours, in the morning and in the evening, non-holiday, and during school.
Thank you, Jonathan. Okay, Jonathan, I think we've gone through all the questions on the chat. I appreciate you standing in the pocket and answering those. And people definitely have access to Jonathan. So again, this is not the last time that we're going to be hearing from you. And if there are other questions, people can submit those to you, and certainly comments on your website. So with that, I'm going to let you go, and thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Eric, and thank you to everyone in the community. Please, Eric has all my contact information, my cell phone. Call me, email me if you have any other questions. We want to make sure you get accurate information on the project, and we look forward to giving you an update as we move forward. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Okay. All right, so that brings us to Troy Dom. Troy, I'm going to find you, and I'm going to unmute you. Where'd you go? Where did you go? Troy. Oh, it's got you alphabetically, maybe. Sort of. I saw. Geez, where did he go? There he is. All right. Troy.
Yes, Eric.
Okay, you're up, sir.
Thank you very much. I'd like to begin by first thanking you and your new board for your service to our community. This is critical, and it's very much appreciated. So thank you to all the new board members and to those who have been serving. My name's Troy Dong. I think most of you know me. I founded Carmel Mountain United. We have a lot of folks that are on our newsletter. We invite you to add your name if you're not on there, carmelmountainranch.org. We have been continuing to work behind the scenes, and we want to assure the community that just because we're all staying at home doesn't mean that we're stopping in our efforts. We have held the city accountable, we believe, code enforcement issues. About a year ago, you might recall that there was a code enforcement relative to the golf course. It has basically a use as a golf course, and it was not being used as a golf course. So as a part of that process, the city came in and they negotiated with the Wang family, the owners, to say, look, if you want to continue to operate this, there's got to be some maintenance done. And we continue to believe that very, very little maintenance is done. I think anybody who lives on the golf course can see weeds that are growing, and obviously it's the rainy season. But the fact of the matter is that they were supposed to be doing brush abatement twice a year. There's been none done for over a year, and that's part of the reason this walkthrough is being done. So, so we need to make sure that they are held accountable for fire hazards, dead trees, brush, weed abatement, etc. Further, as commented earlier, there are large numbers of trees that are being dug up and put into boxes, and we believe that they're going to try to sell these trees. I don't think that they have a permit to sell trees, and a lot of these trees are in fact likely in our landscape district, not just on the golf course. They were designed to provide buffer from road noise, also improve air quality. And I don't believe that there's been any conversation with the city as to what the intent is. So we're following through on trying to find out what is going on there. Earlier, I had asked Jonathan specifically about the parcel located at Esprit and Ted Williams, which is the location of the former golf course maintenance operation. We have filed a complaint. We believe that there's some people that may be living there. But further, and perhaps more importantly now, it becomes clear that that property is not part of the sort of purchase by New Urban West. And I would point out that that is a perfect spot to do future development. So they've excluded it. That will likely become more apartments in the future. When we were at the City Planning Commission, they specifically said that the owners were not allowed to split this up. It needed to be one whole sale. But now, again, we're seeing inconsistencies with what people are saying, what they're actually doing. And now this cherry-picked piece of property has been pulled aside. Why would they want a maintenance building? So that's, count that as another 200 units sometime in the future. And we need to get that question answered, because we don't believe that that's right. I think finally, New Urban West is on the record as saying that there's very little opposition to this project. I don't believe that's the case, but I do applaud New Urban West for creating a website, a new website, where they actually allow everybody to come on and express your opinion. And that's that site is noted in the chat. And if you go to that site, and I will put it in the chat as well, there's a section on there that says get involved, and you can put your name and your address. And they ask 3 questions. Can we count on your support for the trails at Carmel Mountain Ranch? Choice 1 is yes. Choice 2 is no. Choice 3 is I'm not sure. And we'd highly, highly encourage you to get involved. And whether you're pro or con, take advantage of getting involved and share that with your neighbors so that we can get a true sense of whether there is a lot of support for this project or maybe there's a lot of opposition. That's all I have. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Troy. Let's see here. So somebody asked for Jonathan's contact info. I'll get that out. And again, through the website, you can contact him, and I'll find out from him what email or contact method he'd give us for community members to reach out directly to him. Kurt says the clubhouse and owner has mobile homes on site where church and office activities have been ongoing. Okay, it's a statement, and I believe they're also operating some sort of a takeout restaurant out of the clubhouse now, and that is something that I found out about today. I don't have any more details on that at this time, but there's definitely ongoing activities. Code enforcement was on the property today, so if there's anything going on there that was opposed to code and conditional use permits. Hopefully they noted that, and I will follow up with them and find out. Again, I asked to be present on that walkthrough and was denied that request. Troy gives the new website again. Can you bump New Urban West out of this chat so the rest of us can speak freely? People can speak as freely as they want. It's a public meeting. I can't kick people out. Okay, so does anybody have any comment directly related to anything that Troy Dom said? You can raise a hand, you can type in the chat here real quick, and this would be specifically about something that Troy just said, that particular agenda item, not just a general comment. Rick Ludwig, okay, yes, slick. Okay, Troy, I'm gonna say thank you very much for being here. I appreciate your continued efforts and support. It's obviously not the easiest way to have a meeting, and we're doing what we can. Kurt Carlson appreciates Troy's commitment to the community and says great leader, and I think we all can get behind Kurt on that comment. Thank you, Troy. I'm gonna mute everyone again and then go to my next. Okay, so Kurt or Troy, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, I believe this goes directly to something that you said. Trees are being removed from the golf course. No, because they are dying.
Perhaps not, huh? No, the trees that are being dug up are living trees, and they're in fine shape at the moment. So, those are not the dying trees. Obviously, we have concern about dying trees that need to be cut down as well, but that's to be reviewed with the fire marshal.
Gotcha. Okay, I'm going back to mute all, and we're going to move on. Thank you very much, Troy, and thank you everybody for your questions and comments. Okay. So we're up to the chair's report, which I'm just going to mention that the board has completed an annual report that covers the period from March 2019 through March 2020. This report was created primarily originally first draft written by me. I ran it by the board. I got input from Carmel Mountain Ranch United. I got input from Alan Hahn, who's the chairman of the HOA's golf course subcommittee. So I had help, and I appreciate all the help that I got with this report. We are doing this because it's a requirement in our bylaws, and also we want to make sure that our community planning group is compliant with all the city requirements, because community planning groups are currently under a lot of heat and a lot of pressure from the city council, certain city council people in particular. And then there's recently been an audit of community planning groups. So basically, community planning groups are under fire, and there are those at the city who would like to see us eliminated from the process. And so we're creating our annual report, so when they look at us, they will see that Carmel Mountain Ranch Sabre Springs is compliant, and hopefully that gets us some traction with regard to any objection that we might raise with the city about this project. And anyone looking back at the community planning group wouldn't be able to say that we were out of compliance on some small issue like this. So moving on from the chair's report, golf course subcommittee, Rick Ludwig, okay. Thank you, Rick. Rick says, I'm going to read his comment so it's in the record. Rick Ludwig says that excellent meeting, thank you, and that Jonathan Frankel is very polished, or somebody is very polished. I think he was referring to Frankel. Mark Clark wants to know what city council members are looking to remove community planning groups from the process. I know Scott Sherman is a huge proponent of that, and I don't want to throw anyone else under the bus because I know that Scott Sherman has been vocal, I believe, and then Victoria Granowitz, who's a planning commissioner, also has been critical of planning groups. And if I'm incorrect on that, somebody please type and correct me. Do we know what their issue is with us? There's a myriad of issues that they have with community planning groups. The audit that was done claims that we don't have enough diversity, and I'm not speaking about Carmel Mountain Ranch, Sabre Springs in particular, but there's a whole host of issues that were raised in this audit. There's not enough diversity on planning groups. There's people that have overstayed their 8-year maximum. Just the issues go on and on. They're picking apart every little thing, essentially, I believe to make development easier to approve because we're a roadblock. Kurt Carlson says Vicky G has her own agenda. Okay, we're not going to get any deeper into that conversation now, but that's essentially the reason I brought it up is because we created the annual report so that our planning group would be in compliance with bylaws, city council policy 600-24, etc. Rick Smith, are you in the meeting? Is Rick? I'm gonna unmute. Rick, are you here? Everyone is unmuted. If Rick Smith is here, please speak up. I don't think Rick. Yeah, I talked to him earlier, and so as far as the golf course subcommittee, we have a meeting on the schedule for I believe it's the 4th Tuesday in May. I think that's our normal time, and that information will be published soon. I believe that we'll hold the next Carmel Mountain Ranch Sabre Springs Community Planning Group meeting on the regular second Wednesday of May. I gotta pull the chat back up here, manage participants so I can see that again. And then I mentioned this before, Rick wanted me to mention it again, that the EIR scoping process generated over 120 letters to that department. So we're going to move on from that. And then Brian, I'm going to go to you for, Brian, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right, cool. Thanks for hanging in there. Do you have a subcommittee report for us?
Yep. So earlier this week, we asked the city and New Point on the same email, like, hey, are there any updates here? Remember the last time that we all met in person, the update was that we were supposed to get some plans late last month and schedule a meeting to review. That obviously didn't happen as we're all currently under a lockdown. So the question we asked was can they make these available digitally, and what's kind of going on? Because, to the point that these plans are still being reviewed, the development department has not been shut down. So the last response that we got from Scott Sandstrom was, we will submit our updated plans to you, the planning board, with the city of San Diego's staff 3rd submission cycle letters later this month, once we have had a chance to fully review and revise our plans accordingly. We will get you digital copies of the plans and comments to you at that time for your review and comments. So that's the update that I have. The last plans I saw were the versions that were dropped off at Eric's house like Christmas time. I know that there's been updates since then, but we have not received copies of those from the city, which I believe before even the lockdown happened. So that was a bit odd that we didn't get those updates. And quite frankly, I don't have time to go downtown to go and look for the records.
It is odd because we were supposed to get that second review, and I never did get anything. But now they're on to number 3, and they're going to scan them for us. So I guess that's where that stands, huh?
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, I don't remember if I got to tell everybody the latest updates, but there were some things in the last review of notes about like they can't have compact parking spaces anymore. They have to have regular size.
Yeah.
Which is going to take away even more parking spots. The height was higher than the what they're asking for. There's a lot of things that were missing from the plans because they're basically going through and iterating to see what they got to do next. So yeah, we don't know what the next set of plans look like.
Is there an EIR scoping process for that project as well?
There's not actually, because it's city owned, so it has a CEQA exemption. So this is totally
oh wow. And Joe Powell asks us, do they have to have one-to-one parking for each apartment? I believe, Brian, the answer to that is no, they don't, because of the proximity to the transit priority area.
Yeah, that is an unfortunate designation, and I'm sure Mark Schaefer is still on here. So Mark, I remember asking you about that earlier, but I didn't email you about it. What are the odds of us being able to get this TPA removed? Because it's totally bogus. This is not like a trolley stop that has frequent multiple routes. It's
I've unmuted Mark.
Honestly, I don't know, but I would say it's a very uphill battle.
Yeah.
Being very honest in my personal observation of it. It's I mean, I don't want to say no, but it's hard. The TPAs throughout the city pretty aggressively pursued. So that's just a personal observation.
Yeah. Penasquitos and Rancho Bernardo are the two that are not the two unlike the others.
Right.
Well, yeah, and you have to and I'm not saying what I'm saying is you have to say, why is it false? And that's the hard, that's the difficult part of it, is they have their standards, and it met the criteria that they had in identifying TPAs.
Yeah.
You have to say their criteria, it did meet the criteria, and they've determined it has. That's why I say it's a very uphill battle.
Yep. And then one other point is that this is city-owned land still. It's still a conditional sale, assuming that there's basically two types of zoning. There's approval for sale with the existing zoning, or there's the option to try and get at least 45 units, with 15 being affordable. So that's the option to buy. Now this is, city surplus land that's adjacent to a current park and ride, that's next to a current park. We expect, if the New Urban West gets some units in, even more community members that would be using that overflow garage for that. So is it really prudent for the city to be selling this particular lot of land for only $600K, considering the benefit that it provides to way more than 50 units? So these are things to consider as this project goes through.
Thank you.
That's all we have for now.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and mute Mark, mute Brian, and okay. So we are going to we have two vacant seats. Yeah, Brian is doing an awesome job. Thank you for saying so, Kurt. And I should have mentioned that as I was muting him. We are fortunate to have people like Brian in the community who are willing to do all of this very detailed analysis and summation of all of this stuff. And I can tell you from my perspective, it's a lot. It is a lot to slog through, and it is a tremendous amount of work for people like Brian and for all of us. So we definitely, if we were in the room, we'd all applaud Brian. Here, I'm going to unmute everybody so we can give Brian a round of applause. Round of applause. Nice. Thank you. There you go. That's for all your hard work, Brian. Thank you. Okay, so what we need to do now, we have a vacant seat that expires in 2021. John Schroeder has been a member of the board for the last, ever since October of 2018. He initially had decided not to run for re-election for his seat, and then we coaxed him back. We got him to okay, bye Rick. Thank you, Rick. Thank you very much. We got him to come back at least until 2021 March. But what we need to do is get a motion from a board member to appoint John to that vacant seat. So Dan Thompson makes the motion. Do I have a second? Just do it in the chat. Second from John Chu. Thank you. And so all those in favor of appointing John to that seat, we have a yes from Dan Thompson, a yes from Mark Clark, yes from Ryan Yamasaki, yes from Rich Kreggy, yes from Eric Edelman, yes from Esther Berry, yes from Michelle Mullen, yes from Majid, and yes from Silva. Any other board members? And yes from Kurt Carlson. I believe that rounds out the panel for a unanimous appointment, a reappointment of John Schroeder to the Carmel Mountain Ranch Sabre Springs Community Council, occupying a homeowner seat until March of 2021. So I'll unmute for another round of applause on that one.
All right.
Thank you, John. Thank you, John. So
Welcome back.
Welcome back. Yes, indeed. Right back into the fire. Okay, so I appreciate everybody sticking around. Okay, the last thing we need to do, and I realize we're a little over time, so again, I really appreciate people sticking around, and it is nice, I suppose, that we don't have the hard out at 8 o'clock when we get kicked out of a building, but everybody's getting hungry, I'm sure. I know I am. So the action item, and again, this annual report, I think once we approve this and once all you folks read it, I believe, I hope, our sincere hope is that you're going to be happy because, I mean, the board has done their best to summarize the concerns of the community about the two development projects in this report. We've addressed a number of other things that we're required to address, and I think we went above and beyond what is required of an annual report, mainly so that we are on record with all of this stuff, and that the community feels like, at least from the board, we're doing everything we can to bring your voices forward and make your voices heard. That's what we're trying to do in this report. In addition to all the required elements, we're attempting to make sure that all your voices are heard at the city level, and that no one can come back later and say that we didn't do that, or that the community didn't have concerns. So that's what's in there. And with that, I'm going to ask for a board member to make a motion to approve. Motion to approve. Motion, Mark Clark. Do I have a second? Okay, Kurt, I assume that, yeah, Ryan second. Okay, so we have a motion and second. We have an approved from Kurt. We have an approved from John Chu, approved from Mark Clark, approved from Rich Kreggy, approved from Eric Edelman, approved from John Schroeder, approved from Michelle Mullen, approved from Ryan Yamasaki, approved from Esther Berry, approved from Silva Salehi, and Majid. I'm sorry, I've forgotten your last name, Majid. I'll learn it and pronounce it correctly next time, I promise. So that is unanimous approval of the Carmel Mountain Ranch Sabre Springs Community Planning Group's annual report covering March 2019 through March 2020, and I will get that out to everyone so you can see it, read it, and hopefully it meets your approval. We've done our best. What's next? Is that the end Oh, that's the end of my slides. I'm hitting the arrow and nothing else is coming up, which means that it is time to adjourn the meeting until next time. And at this point, thank you, Joe. We are planning to stick with our regular second Wednesday meeting, I believe, for May, and that is going to be done in this format as well. And the board's going to get together and talk again, and I'm sure I'm going to hear from people about what they liked, what they didn't like, and we will strive to make this better next time. I think it went relatively smoothly this time, all things considered. So I do appreciate everyone's cooperation. And with that, I'm going to adjourn the meeting, and I'm going to stop the screen share. The meeting is adjourned. I'm stopping the recording, and I'm unmuting everybody. So thanks folks. Everybody's unmuted. I'm